Hello, and week four discussion on good pastors stakeholder thinking article. He discusses how stakeholder thinking is a normative, ethical approach to organizational decision making and emphasizing corporate responsibilities that tend to go beyond fiduciary obligations to shareholders. And as he describes the definition uh, of stakeholder, is kind of a group of essentials for organization's existence, and that stakeholder thinking kind of emerged as a counter to shareholder focused governance, advocating for inclusive decision making. The text kind of critiques stakeholder thinking's adequacy in corporate conscious, um, and kind of challenges their ability um, to basically obstruct responsible decision making. Goodpaster proposes a distinction between fiduciary and non fiduciary obligations. And as you have critics like Marco who argue that a multi fiduciary model dilutes the essence of the fiduciary duties. Um, Goodpaster's reference Josiah Royce's moral insight, emphasizing the relation of the neighbor in ethical considerations, I think is super important, as we need to take into account other people's thoughts and beliefs, and that's kind of why the one of the main focus is like having more comprehensive moral thinking as a successor to stakeholder reasoning, and to have a broadened central ethical ideal. Corporate responsibilities to include collaborative action between different sectors, which in the end identify the common good. And the study as well suggests adaptations for business education, which I think is important to continue to gain as much knowledge on the subject as possible. One of those implications would be challenging dominant market logic to encourage deeper ethical commitments, which I think is important, to always challenge what we're doing and what we're told to do, so we don't just fall into a category of simple and uh, following ways that we may not morally or ethically believe in. As it's suggested that students should critically examine um, fiduciary versus stakeholder obligations, while cultivating basically moral agencies and inventories in their career. And that kind of leads to the transition of our future leaders, and our call to see management as a profession, integrating ethical considerations, um, and which also relate to their fiduciary duties, and enhancing corporate responsibility, which I think is important, since often in corporations there's such a vast amount of people in charge, if you will, and that often shifts responsibility from place to place without a resolution coming out of situations that are addressed. And hence, you have the MBA oath, which serves as an example of integrating ethical norms into business education. Um, you know, in the end, there's the article stresses a need for a robust ethical framework in business, moving beyond mere stakeholder satisfaction towards a comprehensive understanding of moral obligations, which I think will continue to play a huge role in the future if we end up, you know, as the world is continuing to be run in a corporate capitalist style, which um, is something we'll all have to adapt to.